Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from the Horn of Africa. Neighbours Ethiopia and Somalia, who had cut ties over a port deal that caused a year-long dispute, have now agreed to restore full diplomatic relations. Over the weekend, Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud had made an unexpected visit to Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, and he met with the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Now, the leaders committed to restore and enhance bilateral ties through full diplomatic representation in their respective capitals. They also vowed to expand infrastructure linkages to boost trade and investment. Some Ethiopian officials also described the visit by the Somali leader as a boost to their brotherly relations. However, this latest peace push comes after months of threats and tensions. Ties between the two Horn of Africa nations deteriorated after Ethiopia last year signed a deal with Somalia's breakaway region, Somaliland. Somaliland seeks independence from Somalia, but no country so far backs its claims. But Ethiopia agreed to do so as it signed a deal with the territory. As a part of that agreement, the landlocked country would gain access to Somaliland's port and also permission to build a naval facility along its coastline. In exchange, it would recognize Somaliland as a separate nation. However, the deal provoked a fierce response from Somalia, which accused its larger neighbor of attempting to annex its territory and launching an attack on its sovereignty. It then expelled the Ethiopian ambassador in Mogadishu and recalled its representative in Addis Ababa. Since then, Somalia's close ally Turkey had worked to ease tensions. It has mediated talks between the two neighbors, which culminated in the Ankara Declaration brokered by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan last month. Somalia's president and Ethiopia's prime minister had then pledged to resolve their differences. The year-long diplomatic standoff also risked undermining security cooperation between Somalia and Ethiopia in their fight against al-Shabaab, the al-Qaeda affiliate that seeks to overthrow Somali government. Now, amid the rift, Somalia announced plans to expel Ethiopia from a UN-backed peacekeeping mission fighting the group, in which Ethiopian troops play a significant role. But now it says that the obstacles to Ethiopia's participation in the new mission have been overcome, and the final stage of the composition and size of Ethiopian forces is expected to be sorted out shortly. So while Turkish-led talks have seemingly resulted in success, some impediments have also come to light. Just days after Mogadishu and Addis Ababa signed the Ankara Declaration, their troops engaged in a deadly clash. Somalia accused the Ethiopian forces of attacking its troops in a border region, highlighting that bilateral tensions are not yet solved. Then some foreign partners could also derail the talks. For example, Egypt, a rival of Ethiopia, has now forged closer ties with Somalia, while the Somali president made the abrupt visit to Ethiopia over the weekend. The country's foreign minister attended a meeting in Cairo with Eritrea and Egypt. Now, both of these nations have troubled relations with Ethiopia and have forged an alliance to counter it. The Egyptian minister declared that it will not accept any military or naval presence in the Red Sea from non-bordering countries, and these comments are seen as a reference to landlocked Ethiopia, which is trying to gain sea access through Somalia. So, will ties with Egypt create trouble for Somalia-Ethiopia rapprochement? Or is it really the end of the ongoing dispute in the Horn of Africa region? Now, for more on this, we have with us Matt Bryden, a strategic advisor at Hassan Research, who is joining us live from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. I think you've done an
Matt, what are the key
job.
factors that led to Ethiopia and Somalia to resolve their year-long dispute over Ethiopia's port deal with Somaliland? And furthermore, what compromises were made by both sides?
Well, first, I think you've done an excellent job of laying out the challenges, the multifarious, diverse interests and actors in this equation, which makes it so complicated. But in response directly to your question, what's been agreed is, I think it's a very welcome step. It represents diplomatic rapprochement between the two countries. And importantly, I think it represents a change of tone, where Somalia and Ethiopia are no longer accusing each other of various hostile and adversarial acts. But I think we have to be really cautious about the substance and whether politically and anything has really been agreed. Fundamentally, Ethiopia has made no major concessions. It hasn't withdrawn the memorandum of understanding with Somaliland, and it is still clearly a strategic objective of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government to have commercial and military access to the sea, and particularly the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden.
Yeah.
On the Somali side, Somalia has not yet actually consented to Ethiopian troops remaining as part of the African Union peacekeeping mission there. In principle, Somalia has said that it's willing to do so, but it says, technically speaking, all of the slots for peacekeepers have now been filled, and it's very difficult to accommodate Ethiopia's presence of more than 3,000 troops under the mission's umbrella. And so basically, we are where we started before the Ankara Declaration, mediated by Turkey. And the two sides remain very far apart in the implementation of this statement of principle and intent to improve their relations.
Right. And how will the restoration of full diplomatic ties between Ethiopia and Somalia impact the stability and the economic development of the Horn of Africa region, especially in the context of Somaliland status?
Well, the restoration of full diplomatic ties, I think we need to decode that somewhat. Really what it means is that Somalia will restore its ambassador to Addis Ababa, and Ethiopia will be permitted to send its ambassador back to Mogadishu. It also means that Ethiopia will be permitted to reopen its consulates in Garowe, in the northern Somali province of Puntland, and in Somaliland's capital, Hargeisa. Now, these so-called consulates never closed, despite the federal government of Somalia's orders that they should do so. So nothing really changes there. Again, it's a de-escalation of the hostilities at a diplomatic level, and that's a welcome thing, and it opens the door to more concrete understandings. But if we look fundamentally at what it means for the region, Ethiopia seems to be still committed to the MOU, the memorandum with Somaliland, which it hasn't withdrawn. And that is going to be the prime point of contention between Addis Ababa and Mogadishu. There's also the issue of Ethiopian troops in Somalia, which you referred to, and clashes with Somali government forces. That's of a lesser order, but it's still something that's going to need to be addressed if these two countries are going to see eye to eye.
Right, Matt, thank you so much for being with us on Firstpost Africa, for your valued analysis and insights there.
Thank you.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.